Well, hey, thanks for coming on this. Excited to talk with you for a little while about your background. So, for those that don't know Brandon, Brandon Turner, he is a fellow of Morgan Franklin Fellowship. Recently went through our financial literacy program. I understand you've authored a book. You've worked with people in recovery and financial coaching with them, and you're a real estate investor. Is that it, Brandon?
In a nutshell, yes.
Great. So tell me how you got to here. You just launched your painting business full time. You were working full time. Just made that leap. So how's it been going from financial coaching to running your paint business and not longer having a salary or full time job any longer?
It's been a ride, you know. A lot of changes in the mentality and the way that I have to think and then the actions that I have to take. Um, so it's a completely different lifestyle and getting used to that. Especially with kids and trying to balance a marriage and the real estate and everything else. Luckily, I've liquidated my portfolio down to the duplex that I live in now, so that's helped. It's been fun. It's been fun as long as I choose to continue to look at it through that lens, because it can get stressful, but at the same time, it's pretty exciting. So
That's great. So you have how old are your kids?
my boy is 9. He's going to be 10 actually next month. His name is Jackson, and my daughter Kendall is 6. She will be 7 in January.
Oh, great. Those are fun ages. Mine are a little bit younger. I have a 5, 3, and 1 year old. I completely understand, but it's definitely crazy, but you don't get that time back with the kids.
Absolutely, and that's the toughest thing. And it reminds me of Darren Hardy. He always talks about that balance, at least in some of his ads and whatnot. As far as how to balance that, because I feel like each person feels like they might not be doing enough. Or there's certain areas that are not getting enough attention, and that's kind of the way that I feel sometimes. It's like, how can I keep this like the perfect balance? I think might be impossible, but if I can just stay close to the fulcrum and keep things from swaying too much back and forth, that's kind of the ideal that I strive for, is to just be mindful and keep trying to make sure I make time for them, especially.
And that's tough when you're starting. I mean, I understand you've been doing your painting business for a while, kind of as a part-time thing, and then you've recently launched to doing it full time.
Yeah, it was part-time for almost 2 years, and I felt like that was actually more catastrophic to family time. And now that I'm able to have the flexibility and make my own schedule, it's a little bit easier to fit that time in with them. And I can make my own scheduling. I don't have to be at a certain place at a certain time. So I think going from part-time to full-time was actually beneficial, to make that time for the family. And now it's like, how do I play the marketer, the salesperson, all these things? I got to find the right people now. So it's a new set of challenges.
Yeah, you got to wear a lot more hats as a business owner, as opposed to just that one, right? So that's pretty interesting that so basically you have your nights and weekends back a little bit more. That's when you were probably doing your painting before, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was very trying.
Yeah, that's a lot, and yeah, it's like the most important thing is always your family, and it's hard to, you also have to provide for them as well. So you're always, as a business owner, it's the freedom is nice, but it puts you in that position where you have to make these decisions and choices, which can be tough sometimes.
For certain.
Yeah, I can
Do
imagine that. Tell me about, I mean, you were a financial coach. Do you still do any coaching at all anymore, Brandon?
Yeah, I don't really market for it or advertise or really put myself out there a lot. I did have a fairly loud social media presence, and maybe I gave up too early. Maybe I had the wrong audience. There's a lot of things that aren't very clear to me, um, as far as maybe what I did wrong, if anything. Um, but it is something that I would definitely not deny anybody, even whether they had money or not. It was a very tough business to monetize. Um, Not a lot of interest level in the particular group that I was targeting. But that's okay. It is what it is, and it is something that I do from time to time. And sometimes just people just have a few questions. They may not want steady coaching, but they'll reach out to me and ask a few questions, and I'm happy to answer them if I do have the answer. Um, so it's definitely something that's sort of in limbo, but I would be open to expanding on, if the right opportunity came up, or if anybody needed it.
Well, I'll tell you, I wouldn't take it personally. I mean, talking to people about paying off debt and budgeting isn't exactly the sexiest sell. People aren't exactly looking forward to talking about their money. It's right there with religion and politics, right?
It's pretty close. Yeah. Wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, it's. I had a similar. I think I mentioned to you when we first started speaking. I used to work as a financial advisor at Edward Jones Investments, and the way that we built our business, I literally went door to door in Manchester, and I was meeting people that way, and I started having financial conversations with people, and that's how we brought on our client base. This was back in 2010, and I found a lot of my conversations, I wasn't talking to them about excess money to invest. I was talking to them about how the heck they're going to pay their mortgage, how they're going to get by another month in some cases. So I did start having those conversations, but beyond coaching, there's not many companies that are out there that teach you how to budget and how to save and how to build an emergency fund. It's not really a business that's monetized too well. A lot of people that are having tough times with money, they can't really justify paying for coaching.
Exactly. And it's tough to have that faith, to go further into debt to pay off debt. It would be tough for me to justify as well. And the whole reason that I offer, what I do is because I've been there. I've been 2 months behind on a mortgage. I've had the IRS knocking on my door and sending letters saying, this was many, many years ago, but there's not a lot that I haven't seen as far as financial struggle, and that's what really puts my heart into it. 'Cause I know exactly what people struggling financially are going through, and to me,
Mm.
that's more important than the know-how is to have the empathy for the person that's in that position. But you're 100% right when you were talking about going door to door. Um, it's tough to make that connection with people and then jump right into such a sensitive topic.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was definitely, I won't say that everyone was warm and friendly. Definitely I met some dogs, I met some not so nice people, but met a lot of great people, brought on a lot of clients that way. And it was a good experience. I don't think I'd want to do it again anytime soon, but it was a good time in my life. Um, so you've been building for years to where you're at now, Brandon. I mean, I want to start with just talking about, you had this financial coaching background. You've done a lot of learning and research yourself. I imagine you've wanted to make this jump for a while. You're doing this painting business part time for a little while. I just wanted to circle back to what you had to do personally and financially to feel confident to make this jump. Was it a certain client base that you're looking to have? Was it a number that you're estimating you could get from the painting business each month? Was it having savings set aside? What was the catalyst to make you feel comfortable to transition from full-time work to doing this on your own?
I wish I had something kind of written in the sand, like a line in the sand. That wasn't really the case. And with the amount of debt that I had when I was young, I couldn't really, go about the problem in a left brain manner. It was strictly faith. I just went and I paid off all my consumer debt, and that's sort of the same approach that I took with this. I didn't have a plan. My plan never seems to work out for some reason. No matter how well it's written, there's always something that's off. So I've kind of uh, adjusted to making more of what I would call a malleable outline.
Hmm.
So we sold a single family house that we were renting out that we owned since about 2013. So we had substantial profit from that sale. And I was stuffing money in whole life insurance policies. That's a separate topic. So basically, the savings were at a really, really the highest number that they've ever been. And I was getting very irritable with my time, like we were talking about with I didn't feel like I was spending enough time with my family. And I'm like, okay, the phone just started ringing like left and right. And I'm like, all of a sudden I went from, am I ever going to be able to make this happen to um how am I going to do all this? Like, so I wish I didn't go this route, but I got so busy so quickly I didn't even put a 2 weeks in.
Wow.
I left. I just decided to leave one day, and I knew I wasn't going back. Just a little background too. I also work in manufacturing. Tough atmosphere, very small-minded atmosphere. The biggest thing going on, to the people around me is what the other guy at the other machine said, or just things I was so sick and tired of being around.
Mm.
So that made the decision a little bit easier. Um, So I didn't have a number. I didn't have any of that. I did set a number after I had leaped. I said, you know what? I read this book called The 12-Week Year.
Hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with it
I'm
or
not, no.
so they were talking about all the deadlines that are hit in companies, how they happen. They make these annual goals, and then there's a big rush at the end of the year, and then they end up hitting them. Well, what about the first 10 months? So they're talking about condensing goals into 90 days to give you that constant sense of urgency.
Mm.
I said, okay, well, let's try to hit my annual salary in 90 days with this new business. That I wish I kind of lowered that number a little bit. I took about 5 years, but I did it. I hit I hit that goal in 90 days, and it's just a blessing. I'm not sure where all the referrals came from and all that. It's nothing that I did, I could say, but other than just taking pride in my work, and the rest was just time.
Wow, that is a great problem to have. I don't think a a lot of business owners have that same problem, Brandon. That's great. Where you just basically like, I have to serve these people. I have all these people coming to me, and that's an awesome problem to have. I imagine that I had a similar kind of experience in terms of I most recently was like a W-2 employee in 2016, and since then I've worked for myself. There was periods where I did it concurrently, like you were doing, but I imagine when you're in that manufacturing environment, a lot of the guys there, the people there, it's 40 hours a week, and if they can get overtime or if you get your time and a half or double time, like that's the icing on the cake. But that's just the mindset, and I imagine from what I'm gathering from you, there's a difference. There's a different mindset, an employee mindset versus a business owner mindset of kind of taking ownership of things in your life. And I gather from the journey that you've been on of having to take ownership for a lot of things in your life, in the group that you worked with, there's a lot of personal victories you've had that's kind of just kept transitioning into this. And by nature, it sounds like you just kind of outgrew that environment altogether.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. And for those that are in recovery, they know, when you stop, a certain lifestyle, and you take a good hard look at your actions and the consequences and the people around you that you've hurt, and it can be a very, very painful but pivotal experience.
Mm,
So all I really did was I took that self-examination, and I'm like, I hit this point where I'm like, all right, well, now what? Is this it? Like, I just go to work and pay my bills until the government tells me I can retire. They keep pushing that age further. Like, I don't want this.
mm.
There's got to be something more. I didn't know what exactly that was. And that all changed for me when I got a coach myself. And this was a couple years ago, but I just kept expanding on that, and it can be tough. The vision has to be bigger than the current problem.
Mm.
And that's really all it was for me. That's what kept me pushing through the part-time employment, and just being like, you know what, one day I'm not going to be here. And you know, they're not bad people. It's just I'm not this person anymore.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I read so there's the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, Robert Kiyosaki. He did a follow-up book where he expounded on the cash flow quadrant that's mentioned in that book. And in there, so I read it a couple summers ago, and it kind of stuck with me. He talked about how employees tend to value security, where self-employed and business owners tend to value freedom. And I found that particularly resonated with me, where I really value the freedom, and I was willing to kind of bet on myself and the investments and the businesses that I owned, so that I could have that time with my family and more time with it. It sounds like you were at that place too. Um, Circling back to, I read that that post you did on Medium. By the way, you can find Brandon Turner on Medium.com. He's got a lot of good blog posts in there. That one, I think you were just talking about how coaching gave me a new life and recovery. You mentioned in there just the line, I want to run a business and I'm going to serve as many people as possible while fulfilling my purpose. And I thought that was just really great. You know, it's there's people that see business owners as selfish, or they're trying to make a lot of money, but I feel that when you look at it as your purpose and you're trying to help as many people as possible, it's a completely different distinction.
I wholeheartedly agree, and I think this was the problem that I was having, trying to bring this to light to recovery people, because there's just a little bit of a stigma, I think, um, and not everybody, but you know, just generally speaking. um, I heard something a couple days ago for the first time. Someone said, and I forget where it was. I wish I could, you know, give credit to the source. They said, if you chase money, it runs.
Mm,
And I thought that was beautiful. I have been the least concerned about money that I've ever been in my life. And for some reason, that abundance is just flowing back. And, you know, you mentioned Rich Dad, Poor Dad, cash flow quadrant. I'm a big Kiyosaki fan as well. And he doesn't dive into the depths much. He does cover, you know, the mindset. But as far
hmm.
as like real deep stuff, like in, you know, that Tony Robbins covers, or, you know, books like The Think and Grow Rich or The Go Giver, things like that. The laws that surround the most successful people on the planet are very real, and the things that they're doing are very practical, and it's already there. They're already doing it, and you know, if I can continue to just listen to those people and to come from that space of abundance, you know, it keeps flowing right back, and
Mm.
um, you know, it makes life exciting, because it's more than just having the big house and the fancy. I don't care about any of that. I'm still driving a Honda Accord. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
I just feel so fulfilled, and you can go to sleep at night with a with a clear conscience, and just really wake up with enthusiasm every day, knowing that it's not about the carrot that's in front of your face. You know,
Mm.
it's great.
That's great. So you mentioned a few people there. I imagine you and I have read a lot of the same books. In you know, people like Tony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki, Dave Ramsey. You know, there's a lot of uh, important voices out there that do have some differing opinions and strategies for how to manage your finances. Who would you feel has been some of the bigger inspirations for you to get where you're at now?
Boy, that's tough. I'm a big Darren Hardy fan. Um, Tony Robbins was awesome. I did go to a seminar of his a couple years ago, and that was mind blowing. Definitely some uncomfortable stuff, you know, which I welcomed. Luckily, I didn't, you know, get too closed off. Very cool exercises. Yeah, Tony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki, Darren Hardy. Those are the three that come to mind.
Hmm. Yeah, those are all pretty good, and I think they kind of cover different levels. You know, where Tony Robbins is really hitting you at your core and who you are and what you're going to do with your life. You know, unleash the power within, right? And you know, I feel like you said Robert Kiyosaki. It's not really the nuts and bolts of it. It's kind of the higher, the 30,000 foot view, but he had some good principles in that book. A lot of people probably question if, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, how accurate of a story that is. I think there might be some fiction to it, but the idea of it is very powerful, to say the least. So I find that all pretty interesting. I wanted to circle back. You touched upon it real quick that you sold a single family house. Something that I feel is one of the better financial decisions that I've made that sounds like you're doing it well is house hacking. You live on one side and you rent out the other.
Yes.
So do you is it actual tenant next door, or do you have family or a friend next door that you're giving a discount to, or
No, that's a real tenant.
okay. So
Um,
that's a huge I mean it's I lived in a three family. I bought that in 2012, and I still own it now, and it still helps pay for where I live as my primary residence. And but a year into that, I was living for free, and I feel like for anyone that can just throw fuel in the fire for your personal finance and your ability to offset your largest expense, housing, each month, it's huge.
it is. It's been pivotal in our experience. And actually, I can't believe I forgot about this guy. Going back to, you said, the most influential people, Dan Sullivan of
Mm,
Strategic Coach. He is way ahead of his time, I believe. He said something a while back. He's full of great one-liners. His books are very short, no fluff. He said, never own anything that eats while you sleep.
mm.
And to me, when you brought up house hacking, that is, other than taxes, the mortgage is the biggest expense, and you save on the mortgage and the tax equation as well, and you're building the equity.
Right. The tenants can pay the mortgage for you. It's a beautiful thing, and it frees up more of your time to be able to do things that you actually want to do in your life, like you're doing now.
100%.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. Now you kind of went away from real estate a little bit. Do you have, with you being a painter and such, I imagine that you're going to meet a lot of other investors and property owners. Do you have any ambitions to get back into buying more property?
Yeah, and I actually got put on hold. So as we all know, the market just went way up. Um, I cannot believe people are paying retail for properties right now. Um, it's nothing I'm going to do. I took a different strategy. So I started pulling up people that are delinquent on taxes, people that are obviously struggling for whatever reason. I've toured these properties. I've done everything except knock on the door to see if they, would accept a cash offer or anything like that. That is a strategy that I'm looking to go in the future until, a serious crash happens, and it's like shooting fish in a barrel. But I started digging more and more and more, and that is a strategy that I would like to pursue. I'm so busy right now with painting that it's sort of got tabled
Mm.
for the moment.
Yeah, it's what's again a good problem to have, to be busy, right? You have clients. It sounds like, I mean, you're getting out there, getting your face out there, but it sounds like you had this client pool to start with that's referring you business, and now you're out there and actually proactively doing work as well. So it's a lot just to keep up with all that.
It is, and until I can get the right people in place to delegate some of this work to, I'm not sure how I'm going to do it yet. Or maybe I do a seasonal thing where I'm out straight from April to October, and then I do one flip a winter. Or I'm not sure yet.
Mm.
We'll see.
There's a book I read years ago. It's from 1986 called The E-Myth. Have you ever heard of it, by Michael Gerber?
It sounds familiar. Maybe it's time to look into it.
Yeah. It's one of those books as a business owner that you always wish you read like 5 years ago. The entire book is basically he's a small business consultant, and he basically takes the idea of places like McDonald's and Starbucks, and you're applying the systemizing, the delegating the processes to your small business, and how how is it that you can go anywhere in the world and the burger tastes the same at McDonald's? They can pull anybody off the street, train them to be a cashier or a cook. And it's because they have processes and instructions for each position in that business. And basically taking that for your own business is how you're going to grow and scale and get more of your time back. And that's it's definitely, I think you'd really like that one. It's one of those that when I read it, I probably read it in a day or two because I was like, I just couldn't stop reading it and trying to implement it all. So I think you'll like that one.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and between the, I mean, sure, you and I could probably come up with a pretty good library of good business books, to say the least. But Tim Ferriss is another one that I've read a lot about for different ideas for my business. I don't know if you've gotten into any of his stuff, the 4 Hour Work Week. I imagine that one would be pretty inspirational if you haven't read it.
That's a great book.
Yeah, it's I mean the whole, delegation, systemizing, getting your processes in place, automating. It's pretty powerful what you can do in today's world. With that said, though, being in the trades, you can't really replace how you paint. It's hard to you have to train somebody to do it to the same level that you are, and I'm sure a lot of people you work with, they expect you. So it's a hard thing to let go of to try to get someone else to try to do the work the same way that you would and still take ownership representing your business the same way.
It is tough. And, I put a lot of work into developing rapport with each customer. And for them to not see me on the job site, I'm not sure how they would take it or how they wouldn't. That's probably something I'll filter into the conversation as
Hmm,
as as these things come up. But you touched
absolutely.
on time, and Robert Kiyosaki talks about time as well as being your greatest asset. Um,
Right.
and that's really what it's all about. It's nice to be busy. It's nice to be panning. It's nice to be making way more money than I was as a W-2 employee, especially when I know how to manage it so well. But that is really what it comes down to. It's not just the money. It's um, in the quadrant you were talking about, it's I'm in kind of all four of them right now, but I'm trying to move towards the B and the I. And
Yeah.
until I get some people, I'm considering myself an S as far as the painting, self-employed.
Yeah, exactly. That's you took the words right out of my mouth. It's tough to I feel one of the toughest places to switch from is being a self-employed to being a business owner. And that's that E-Myth book is entirely about that, is truly making it a business, a system that works without you. That's it sounds like you're going down that path, and to a degree, I mean, you don't want to be completely separate from it. I imagine that you do enjoy the work, you do enjoy painting. Which, by the way, when I first met my mother-in-law before I got married to my wife, the first question she asked me is if I was a good painter, and I couldn't say yes. I'm sure like you can, but I cover the walls. I definitely have drips here and there. I probably have some white spots here and there, but I get it done. But yeah, with that said, it's definitely it's an art. It's you really have to lean in the right places when you're cutting in and have a feel for how much paint you're putting on. It's a whole thing in itself.
Yeah, it's an underestimated trade.
Yep.
No doubt about it. Probably the most.
Yeah, but it's with that said, you have job security. Everyone, especially with the effects of COVID, and I'm glad you talked about just the real estate and people paying premiums right now. I mean, they're also paying premiums to get their homes improved. Just as many people that are out trying to buy properties and move, they're all remodeling their houses, and if they're not going to go buy some other place, it seems like they're improving their places. I'm sure you've benefited from that.
Yeah, it's crazy right now. I'm hoping it's not too much of a boom to where it causes a real shallow bottom.
Hmm.
Um, we'll see.
Yep. Yeah, we'll see. It's interesting. I work in real estate. I'm a commercial real estate agent, and then I work for a law office where I do these closings each day. So I meet with the people buying the properties, and I explain all the numbers and do all the paperwork and all. And it's pretty interesting just to see the trends. I'd say of every 9 or every 10 properties I do, 9 are out of state buyers coming into New Hampshire. So I feel like that's been a lot of influx there. As you've mentioned, they're paying a premium, they're paying above retail. So it's definitely, there's some concerns there to say the least. But the big trend of it is there's just not enough supply. There's not enough houses out there. So it's without a huge boom in building and people, we still don't have enough houses for people to buy. So it's keeping the prices high. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. The only hope that I have, selfishly, because I'm trying to buy a place right now, is less people, the influx of people coming into our state, and you're seeing that all around the country. This movement, I feel like, is driving a lot of prices up as well. There, people in bigger cities have been, migrating to more of the country type areas where they can get a lot more land and house for the money.
Yeah, it's still discounted to them. So, maybe there won't be any long-term effects. I mean, this is so unprecedented that I'd be a fool to say I have some kind of an idea of what's going to happen in the next year, 2, 3 years.
We can
I
only
don't,
hope, Brandon. We can only hope.
but that's what kind of got me looking under the radar to buying these off-market properties and finding people that are in tough situations, being able to empathize with them and actually being able to help them.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, I mean, they could be digging a hole, right? They could be going further down a path where they're owing more in taxes, or they just might be in a situation where they're underwater, and you can come in and help those type of people, and it can be a win-win for you as well.
absolutely. And I plan on using the coaching as a foot in the door to actually try and help them solve that problem.
Hmm.
At least giving it back to the bank if they can leave with a little cash and their credit intact, and everybody wins. Just making sure that everybody wins, so that I go home with a clear conscience, and I'm still doing business, with a moral compass that's on point.
Absolutely. So you and I are kind of in a similar spot where, sounds like we're kind of doing some of the work that we want to do. And I was kind of reading through some of your posts, and you talk about freedom and some of it, the ability of maximizing your potential as a human being. It made me think. I've always liked this Abraham Lincoln quote, where he says something along the lines of, nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. And I
Mm.
always feel like power and freedom are similarities between the two there. So, I mean, it sounds like you're doing well financially. You're working for this business that you like. How do you feel it's going to go from here? I mean, to be able to affect positively as many people in your life as possible, where do you see it going?
That is a good question, and I'm trying not to have too many details ironed out. Like I was saying about my plans, they just don't work out. So I do have an outline. And first things first is I need to free up more of my time. So investing, we've got a similar investing strategy, buying cash flowing real estate, finding those killer deals, um, so that eventually, I don't even have to work in the business anymore. I can just do real estate full time. Uh, so that's sort of the means. I would like to travel the world. I've gotten into travel hacking, which is a lot of fun.
Tell me about
Travel,
that.
it's essentially it's about travel hacking. It's complex. I'm still wrapping my head around it, but it's about grabbing credit cards
Yeah.
with big sign-on bonuses, and you reap the travel rewards or the cash back, however you want to do it, and you travel for free. And some of the points are transferable to hotels, rent a cars, the whole nine. It's a fairly elaborate system, and I'm still learning a lot about it, but that's the gist of it. So Chase is the big credit card company to do this with. They offer the best bonuses. Unfortunately, they're the most uh, picky as well.
Hmm.
But they have a rule called the 524 rule. It's not written in stone. Like you can't find it on paper, and you can't really talk to an agent about it. It's sort of under the radar. So what that allows is that you can open 5 cards in a 24-month period before they just automatically deny you.
Huh.
So you want to go with Chase first, get your 5 and 24 months, and then move on to another company, because other companies will qualify at that 524, but not the other way around.
Interesting.
So you get your 5, you get your, so you spend it on normal things that you normally would. So you're not spending money to get money,
Mm.
food, gas, whatever it is, all your bills pay for it with a credit card. You hit your sign-on bonus, you open a new card. So here's the thing: if you have a spouse, you can refer them, and they can refer you, and you get even more points.
Hmm.
And all you need is the time to do it all. You go wherever you want.
Funny, Brandon. For the first time in 5 years, like literally these last 2 weeks, I started using a credit card again. I've Dave Ramsey, right? We paid off all our debt. We cut up credit cards. We did everything. And I just recently, again, with being self-employed, there's some times where you have breaks in your cash flow. And I just thought it'd be a way. My wife is very, she'll check in with me for pretty much any purchase, above $20. She's always very concerned about spending money. She has that pain center in her brain that's really strong, and I do it to a degree, which is it created a lot of scarcity for us, where we're doing pretty well now, but a few years ago we were just working for a couple of my e-commerce businesses, and some months you reinvest all that money back into the business. You don't take a paycheck, and that is kind of burned into us. So, I graduated college in 2008, and I was laid off from my first job. And, I learned not to rely on one income. So there's pain centers there that made me not want to use credit, just use the cash I had. And I'm now that we feel more comfortable with everything coming in, we're starting to dabble in, earning the points and trying to use what we're already going to spend money on. But I'll tell you, I did get a taste of it this last month, and I feel like I spent some more. So I'm interested in how to hear your take on how you use them and how you try to reel that in, because it's pretty easy to think that you just have a gift card and you can just use it however you want. It's not your money.
It's true. Well, one thing that I like about it versus the debit card is that you're protected.
Mm.
You're not using your money. So if someone steals your information on your credit card and they run up a big bill, these companies have, whatever type of insurance. I'm sure it's pretty effective for however they're running their business, but things get a little more complicated if they steal your bank information and go directly out of your account. I automate everything. So I'll switch it over, pay the electric bill or whatever with one particular credit card. And then as soon as I hit my bonus, get another one, change the information. And it's all, regular expenses that would probably fall under Dave Ramsey's 4 walls.
Mm.
What is it? Food, utilities, shelter.
Transportation, right?
Transportation, yes.
Yeah. Look at us. We're good Dave Ramsey students. He'd be proud. At least that part. He wouldn't want to hear about all the credit cards we're talking about right now. I think we're called Dave-ish, right? We're somewhat following Dave, but not fully not fully in. Um, that's interesting. Yeah, I haven't. To be honest, I don't even want to open any of their cards. Right now, like I'm in the kind of the pre-approved phase where I have, we're actively looking for houses, and I don't want to mess anything up with I don't want to have any drop in my credit and open any other cards. But I guess I need to become more open to that because I'm missing out on some stuff. It sounds like.
Yeah, and I think people like you and I are have disciplined enough habits to where it won't be too big of a deal, to have a few credit cards. I am Dave-ish. I love Dave Ramsey. I love how he's just straight to the point. I do feel like some of his methods are a little bit outdated.
Mm.
So my mentality is a little bit of a blend of probably someone like him and Robert Kiyosaki,
Mm.
where Kiyosaki loves debt, like understands leverage. And Dave Ramsey's sort of like a little more black and white, like all debt is bad. And it can be fuzzy to to try and understand those radically two different mindsets that are obviously both very successful people. And I think
Right.
everyone needs to find that, what works and what doesn't for themselves. Everybody's different. Everybody's risk tolerance is different. Everybody's habits are different.
And they get along. Like I think they're friends. Like their viewpoints couldn't be more different on some of those. And I think a lot of it comes from Dave's story, right? He was a real estate guy early on in his career, was real successful, and he lost it all. And it sounds like, he built his mantras, his baby steps on not ever letting that happen again. And I think he's been teaching it so long now that he has such a following that he can't really change. It's like these are the baby steps. This is what we do, and it's he's done well with it. He does really good. I actually was looking at jobs in Tennessee 5 or 6 years ago. I was researching going to go work down there because I just loved just personal finance. I feel like just opens up so many avenues for you if you're good with your budgeting and you're good with saving, and it lets you live such a more peaceful life. And I feel like it's a subject not talked enough about, but just whatever income situation you're in, like it by tightening things up with budgeting and with paying down debt and not having this big number you're up against every month. It's allowed. My wife's home with the kids. We're I, despite all the things I do, it's not like I work set 40 hours every single week. Someday I might have a long day on a Tuesday, but Wednesdays I made a rule where I don't take any on-site meetings. I try to be home. I'll do some Zoom calls here and there and some miscellaneous things, but the whole goal is to be home with the kids. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I had two big car payments. I've had a big mortgage that I was using my earned income to pay every month. It takes a little while to build to it, but I feel like it's just so powerful.
It really is. And uh, I don't worry about anything, because I just know the game so well that it took a lot of pain, a lot of hard lessons, but I know the financial world so well that I am not worried about anything.
Mm,
I have car payments. I don't care.
right.
You know, I buy my cars used. I lease my vehicle to the corporation. Like I don't know it all, but the fact that it's such a lifestyle now, and I'm so and just enthusiastic about learning new things about the financial world, and it's become such a lifestyle that I don't worry about, well, what if this happens or what if that happens? I know I have enough put away. Dan Sullivan, again, one of my favorite quotes of his: if you have enough money to solve a problem, you don't have a problem.
No problem. I heard one of the Sharks said that, Kevin O'Leary. I think I heard him echo that same quote before. Yeah, you don't have a problem. That's great. Something I didn't ask you that I'd be interested. We've kind of talked about some different concepts and such. I'm actually just selfishly looking for more ideas. I've used a few different budgeting programs. I've used Every Dollar. I have Quicken that I'm using right now. I've never used You Need a Budget or some of those, even QuickBooks. Do you have any tools or systems that have helped you just to kind of look at your finances and help you kind of steer the ship a little better?
For me, and this could be more of a hindrance than I currently believe it to be, but I'm still pen to paper.
Like it that way.
Yeah, for some reason, and I wrote some of my book the same way. The connection is different, and I find whenever I pick up my phone, and this is just for me, I am very, very addicted to my phone.
Mm,
Uh, so I can get sucked into, like, I'll open an app to look at my budget, and then before you know it, I'm on YouTube, or you know what I mean. I'm somewhere where I didn't intend to be, and this is I'm strictly talking about me. Um, but with the hand brain connection, like I'm just more involved. My focus is stronger, so more energy is going into the task at hand, and that's where I choose um, pen to paper.
that's really good. I'll echo that where I try to, it's tough because like the efficiencies of like a computer and like saving things in like a Google Doc versus like a pen and paper, like I know in my mind I'm not going to be able to find that paper from 7 years ago. Like I'm just not organized enough that way. But I do the same thing. I like reading a paper book, and I try to take notes on the book when I read it. So I use Evernote, but again, same trap you go down. I try to like take notes in Evernote because I know I can find it while I'm reading the book. And sometimes I'll take pictures of certain pages. Maybe there's some matrix that was really interesting. But then, yeah, I mean, these apps, they're designed to be addictive. They're designed to pull us in. There's a lot of deliberate decision making on that phone to suck us in and distract us. And I try to avoid the same thing. A lot of times it's just not picking it up like you're doing with just pen and paper. So I like that a lot. There's a lot of value in saying that.
Yeah, it's helped me.
Yeah, it's a lot, and I try to go back to pen and paper, but I find my handwriting's getting worse and worse as the years go by. My
I'm
wife can't
glad I'm
really
not the
read
only one.
anything. I can't read my own handwriting anymore. But no, it's that's great. But hey, I feel like I've got a pad of paper. Actually, I've been taking notes while we've been talking, so I got a few things I got to check out here, to say the least. I guess just to wrap up, I know you are running into another meeting after this. For anyone that might be listening, that's kind of starting out their financial journey, maybe they're in debt and they don't feel like, maybe they want to start a business, they want to do the path that you've gone down. Is there any a couple of things you might say that to advise them?
Yeah, and this is very case dependent too, depends on the individual, but I had a tendency to overwhelm myself with the big picture. And I wish I had started that reverse engineering process earlier. What do I need to do right now? Like, and then it goes back to that old saying, how do you, I think, I don't know who came up with it. I don't know anybody that eats elephants, but how do you,
Yeah, yeah,
how do you eat an elephant, one bite at a time? Something along those lines. But just what needs to be done, today,
yep.
what can be done right now, or even this week. But I had a tendency to keep going long term and get overwhelmed, and then I wouldn't do anything, and it delayed my progress. So that's what I would encourage people, is just focus on what needs to be done today, and just keep going, one day at a time.
That's great. That's good advice for any of us. Just one small step at a time. Make it attainable. Make it achievable, and that builds momentum. It builds progress. It gets you going. I think there's an Amish saying that is, "Just start and you're halfway done." It's
Yeah.
It made me think of that. So that's great. Well, hey Brandon, this has been awesome. We've been trying to coordinate for a few weeks now, so I'm glad to finally get on this with you. And I have a feeling that we'll probably be doing more of these down the road together and working on some different ideas. I feel like we could probably talk for a few hours on this stuff.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
So that's great. Well, hey, thanks again. Good luck with everything going forward. We'll talk soon.